What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations, and I'm the host of Epic Conversations, 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner, 2018 Innovation Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. Also, I'd like to say that I co-host and co-produce the only online show for dads and fathers that's sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care. And being part of that collaboration over 2022 and 2021, reached out directly and indirectly with a team to over 100,000 fathers around the world. Also, just want to say, Canadian Ethnic Media Association, yes, 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner, 2018 Innovation Award winner. As always, I like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, solution for someone's problem. And we got a little bit of a delayed start today on Black Canada Talking, but we are here and we have our roundtable, which we try to do at least every 2 weeks. And a little bit of housework before we go any further. If you can, subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube. And also, when you do it on YouTube, hit the notification button so you get notified when Epic Conversations come up. And I appreciate that. Also, like it on Facebook and anywhere you're watching this, subscribe so you get notified. So appreciate that and do not take it for granted. And just want to say welcome. And one of our all-time regulars when it comes to Black Canada Talking Period. And actually, I was speaking with someone last night saying, when is Cesar coming back? When is Cesar coming back? So we have him back with myself and Cesar. We're going to chat about one or two things on this abbreviated version of Black Canada Talking today. But most importantly, Cesar is in the house. What is up, Cesar?
Hello, Dr. Vibe. Hi, my people. Thank you for having me always. I'm good, thanks.
Good. And thank you for taking the time as always. We're going to probably just hit maybe 2 or 3 subjects today, but I think we'll have enough conversation about it. So we're broadcasting live on February 26th, and it's coming to the end of another Black History Month. And I was told that someone I know met you at an event in Ottawa that was celebrating Black History Month. Do you know who that person is?
I think I know who. I think the brother surprised me, but yes.
And who was the brother that surprised you?
My God. I'm having a memory blank right now. But
no problem. You want me to tell you?
A finest brother doing great work in the community.
Roger Dundas?
Roger Dundas, indeed.
Yes, he told me, says, guess who I met last? I go, what? I have this guy on all the time. I haven't met him yet, but he said he really enjoyed meeting you, and I'm glad that you two met, and I'm speaking that he's expressed interest to come back on with you in the very near future, so that'd be great. But we're coming to an end of another Black History Month. What are your thoughts? How are you feeling?
How can I put it? So one little thing, it's a really side note. I want my Black people to be able to celebrate Black History Month without always thinking that they gave it to us because it's the coldest month of the year.
Oh,
it's very philosophical. It sounds like a little nothing, but this is one of the issues that I address in terms of why it's important for us as Black people to know our history and speak our narrative, because if not, we would tend to attribute things to white/non-Blacks. The reason Black History Month happens in February is because the founder, Brother Carter G. Woodson, it's in honor of his birthday. It has nothing to do with winter. It's a man who, he died in 1875 to 1950, if I'm correct. His whole life, he stood up for Black education and for society's recognition of Black achievements. And it's from there that basically came the notion and the importance of Black History Month. And as such, his birthday being in February, if I recall correctly, this is why we celebrate Black History Month in February. Nothing to do with winter, this is not something white people gave to us. It's not. So that's just a little thing that I think as Black people, we need to change that type of narrative, because once again, it makes us look inferior with inferiority complexes. Now, as per your specific question, I want to say that it's interesting for us to talk about another Black History Month, literally the third one, so 2021, 2022, 2023, after the recorded murder of George Floyd. We have to recognize, and of course, this is not forgetting any of the others, whether it be Sister Sandra Bland, our young brother Trevor Martin, or right here in Canada, Abdirahman Abdi, Regis Korchinski-Paquet. But we have to recognize the importance of the mobilization that came following the recorded murder of George Floyd in the context of the pandemic, in the context of not much, no sports on TV, but also a test to, I would say, the evolution of language in terms of people being more, the conversation being more out of the box, and also organizations um, talking more about equity, diversity, and inclusion um, when they really should be talking about inclusivity, not inclusion. But we have to start assessing how truthful and how concrete are those measures are being, because uh, we don't want to be bamboozled again. Black people get bamboozled too easily by the system, and too often we also bamboozle ourselves due to hope of things changing. So we end up having scraps when we think we're being invited at the table. And when I look at this yet another Black History Month, my question is not so much in terms of kind of like, you know, you should have done more. Everybody can always do more. But at the end of the day, as a community, as a whole, and talking with Black people worldwide, is the fate of Blackness really progressing? Is the fate of Blackness really progressing when, in terms of statistics, we are still at the bottom? Obviously, I'm not talking just since George Floyd, it's only 3 years, but like our individual fates may be advancing, but is our community fate advancing? I take, for example, earlier this week, the president of Tunisia using Black people as a scapegoat for the economic issues in his country and the political climate that he has created in wanting to pretty much be a dictator, blaming Black people and racist interview and everything. Where's the African Union? Where's the outrage from the other African countries? Where are the Black Muslims being offended, being outraged, to being looked at as invaders and looked at as slaves? When I look at our own Black communities right here, it's great that we can come together for events, and we have to celebrate the people doing great work. But is
You,
our is our Blackness really as inclusive as we like to think? Even when we talk about LGBTQ, even as we talk about mental health. Um, I was honored to be on Thursday. I was on the panel, Black US panel, addressing a lot of these issues, and I was glad of the conversations that among brothers who are community activists, educators, pastors, and ministers. We talked about the LGBTQ issues, and I think there was a general agreement that it's great to point the fingers at non-blacks and say racism. It's great to address historical wrongs that are still impacting us, but even ourselves as Black people, we have to address our coming together as one, despite so many differences that others have created upon us and that we create upon ourselves, from skin color, colorism, to sexual orientation, etc., and of course backgrounds. Yeah.
just out of curiosity, was that conference being held in Chicago?
No, it was actually virtual.
Okay.
It was by Sister Jocelyn Dion, if I remember correctly. But she runs a project which anyone can find on Facebook, I believe, L'amour de soi. L'amour de soi, which is L apostrophe AMOUR space DE space SOI. L'amour de soi, which is French for love of oneself.
Okay.
Uh, Great conversation that we had. I think it's a sister that Brother Vibe, you could like to have on the show, to have a conversation
I'd
with her.
be more than happy to do that.
Yeah.
One of the things, and on my on the show I do on Monday and Friday mornings at 9 a.m. with Ryan Knight, who's the executive director of the Afro Canadian Business Network. He does this thing called Gala Watch,
Hmm.
where you see all these galas,
Yeah.
especially in Black History Month.
Hmm.
Is that, I don't know. I'll just be just a little person. I'm getting tired of the galas, especially
Hmm.
during Black History Month. You know, uh, we as a people, and nothing bad about this, we love to celebrate. We love the show, especially during Black History Month. But I listened to one of the things you said a few moments ago. Are we really getting ahead?
Hmm. Again, it's two things where one could think I'm being contradictory, but I really am not, and because I see further than, of course, this year that we're talking. I'm looking decades down the road and possibly even centuries down the road. And I'm very serious here because this is actually a warning from history. We have to be very careful because, on one side, yes, we have to celebrate our people who are doing outstanding work, etc., etc. But at the same time, it becomes problematic in the sense that the nature of integration eventually creates not only different types of people within the community, but it really creates two types of people: those who are above and those who are below. And what ends up happening is that, as great as galas are, unfortunately, it tends to reproduce two fundamental elements. The first one, which I address in terms of calling out entertainment as the number one cancer of the Black psyche. We are seen celebrating, we are seen dancing, we are seen having a good time. But what's the state of our community? We cannot justify being a community, a race on the four corners of the world that complains so much about racism, rightfully, historically, socioeconomically, politically, etc. Absolutely, rightfully, and yet be also the same community that is seen so often celebrating. It's a contradiction. At the same time, the fact that we do have such things under integration basically means that some of us have well adapted to the system. And this is part of the reason why being rewarded. There, there's not likely to be a public gala of a brother who has a speech like Khalil Muhammad, who basically was saying things such as, white people are the devil. You're not likely to see that. I obviously don't think white people are the devil. The devil. You know my views on religion. That doesn't exist. But what I'm trying to say is that part of the success to integration is that it will create those who are better fitted in the model, in the dominant society, while the vast majority stay at the bottom. It's great to have the galas, but it's terrible when the vast majority of us are still in such negative statistics that it's not even about them winning a prize at the gala. It's about the vast majority of our people not even being able to afford the ticket to come to the gala. That is a problem. And when I say that is a problem, I am never scared to go there, but I say it very honestly, based on my studies, this was exactly the reality of the Jewish community in the 19th century in France, Germany, England, all the way to the mid 20th century, when you have a very well integrated elite and a vast majority being marginalized, discriminated, poor, etc., that just couldn't even pay a ticket to be at the event where the small minority were being celebrated. So that becomes problematic. We don't have to repeat that because uh, European Jews can, I mean, if you don't say you're Jewish, people will just assume you're white. Us as Black people, our skin color makes it that you can be Jay-Z, you can be a billionaire like Jay-Z, or you can be a president like Obama. You will still be looked at first and foremost like Tyrone, Jamal, like Quintisha from the hood, because first and foremost, what he's saying is that you're Black. It's a warning from history. So it's great that we have the gala and we have to celebrate our people doing great work, but we cannot be lusting and fasting into celebrations and dancing and all that stuff The vast majority of us can't even afford a ticket to be at the event.
Good point. Good point. What do you feel Black people could be doing better when it comes to Black History Month or just Black history in general?
That is an excellent question. And here I am actually being reminded of a post that I saw. Actually, two conversations. One post that I saw, I didn't get to intervene. Maybe it got deleted because it was so controversial. As Black people, our pride, we have to really define our sense of Black pride. It's too, and some people will be upset by what I'm going to say, and that's totally fine by me. For too many of our people, our Black pride is still too strongly attached to hyper emotivity and impulsivity. The post that I'm talking about in question was about, and it's a good friend, online friend, so it's not against him. I understand where he came with the post, but he made the post. This brother, this Haitian brother, made a post about how white people don't like Black people, and of course, most Black people were agreeing and talking about history, slavery, colonization, systemic racism, and you had some white people, especially white women, will have children with Black men, talking about this post is racist, it's insulting, and blah blah blah. When we talk about Black people here, my Black people have to understand white people don't have to love you. It's even weird to think, to hope for such a thing. It's not about love. We're talking about power relations where you have to be respected, notably under the law, where you have rights, and it's about imposing you respect. It kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier about us as Black people rightfully complaining of racism and yet being too often seen devaluing ourselves in constant and too often stupid entertainment. It's about the character of a people, of a group. It's like the example that I like to give often. No matter how rich and powerful a Black person is, that person is first seen through the stereotypes of the group, while other communities, I'm talking here notably of Asians, we can say yellow Asians, Chinese, Japanese, Koreans, just as Jewish community. You can have one of the members be poor, but the strength of the community makes it that they are protected further from aggression. So it's not a matter of love. And this is something Black people have to cultivate, to detach themselves from these over emotional lenses through which we look at the world and we look at ourselves. And this is literally where, as I speak of the first cancer of the Black psyche being entertainment, the second one being consumerism, this is where I speak of the third and the worst one being religion, because it is Christianity and Islam that basically makes us, and this is actually proven, this was done purposefully, that true Christianity and Islam to pacify Blacks, to make them dull, to make them more subservient. And as such, we tend to fail looking at what happens to us through power relations, but too much through a moral lens, kind of as I believe it was the German philosopher Nietzsche who was addressing this. The moral lens is the argument of the weak. Like the person in power can absolutely agree that what they're doing is wrong, but that doesn't mean they're going to stop doing it because it's wrong. They do it because they can. So for those who are oppressed, you have to fight to stand up. You have to take the means. We have to, in the context of Black History Month, we have to educate our youth past the lenses that have been set in place for us, where notably over 90% of Black people worldwide are Christian or Muslims. It's a contradiction to our past, where consumerism, we in the US, the studies are very formal. Black people are the number one consumers and yet are the poorest community. Entertainment, Black people rightfully complain about racism, but are overvalued in entertainment. So these type of contradictions that ultimately do not serve our cause. We have to teach our young and adult people how to think critically, not just to spew emotions, not just to jump at the offense, but to think critically. When we feel out all of these things, and so many more. I can talk about the socio-economical development of our community. I can talk about the Pan-Africanist notion of seeing one another as brothers and sisters and not falling for false divides, such as being African American versus Caribbean versus African, because at the end of the day, that racist white cop will treat us all the same, whether our name is Trevor Martin or Amadou Diallo. You see? So when we see all of this, the biggest danger does not become the white racist man. And by white, I'm talking European white, Arab white, Aryan white from India. No. The biggest danger becomes what has happened to our brother Tyree Nichols in Memphis is the internalized hatred that some of us cultivate and execute upon others. Because at the end of the day, kind of as allow me to show the book here. It just happens to be right here next to me. As the brother Franz Fanon wrote, black skin, white mask. That's what the real problem becomes. Through integration, too many of us wear masks, but also to survive and to maintain and to keep a certain status, they wear masks. The reason they wear masks, because the community is weak. Individuals can be strong, individuals can be celebrated, but the community becomes weak. Look at how too many of our people, uh, as they climb up, too often the speech changes, too often the behaviors changes.
I agree with you. Like one of the things I say, a gentleman who I follow online, he has a T-shirt. Entertainers are not leaders.
I, I,
and
I really,
I back you because I've mentioned this on during other conversations. AC Nielsen, which is one of the biggest research organizations in America, and the last recently did a study, and the results of the study showed that black if black individuals are more swayed by influencers and entertainers than any other culture
100%. Yeah.
in North America. So this thing about the love of entertainment or influencers is not suiting us well in a lot of ways, and we've got to let go of that in a historical perspective when it comes to black history. And another thing too about black history, too many people who are melanated or non-melanated think that black history started at Martin Luther King.
Mm-hmm. 100%. And I see this far too often. The vast majority of people, you ask them when did racism start, they will say slavery 400 years ago or colonization in the 19th century. That's not true. Too many people, when you talk to them about Black history, the Black history is really about three things: slavery, colonization, and MLK. Maybe Malcolm X. That's and these. When I say too many people, I am talking here mainly of Black people, mainly of Black people. That becomes a problem. Our ignorance becomes a tool to oppress us because it prevents us from standing up. Uh, the the intellectual brother Nelly Fuller said something in terms of, if you don't know all the facets of white supremacy, you keep victim. It's not just that you are a victim, you become accomplice to your victimization. Just as Sheikh Anta Diop, the father of Kemetism, so basically were proved that Kemet, ancient pharaonic Black Egypt, ancient pharaonic Egypt was a Black civilization. He talked about arm yourselves with knowledge. At equal knowledge, one will not dominate you because you will have the arguments to answer. This is too often what lacks to our Black people. Either they don't have the arguments, or they end up having a false Black revisionist view of it. And this is what gets many of our entertainers brothers in trouble, notably when they go say things about the Jewish community, which not only is not true, but too often comes off anti-Semitic. And that is also not correct. In the nature of power relations, you can speak about everything, but you have to know what you're talking about. And if I can give a very good example in terms of what you're saying, it is not about the fact that we shouldn't have entertainers in the Black community. Obviously not. That's not what the topic is. It's the prevalence of the influence of entertainment in the Black community in terms of our relations to ourselves and the perception of us as a group by others. To give an example, arguably one of the greatest, definitely the greatest boxer of all time, Muhammad Ali. When you talk about Black consciousness, you speak of Muhammad Ali with Malcolm X. When you look at Colin Kaepernick putting his knee down goes along with Colin Kaepernick investing in Black organization and Black activism. So the influencers and so many of the artists that we have were notably are toxic. The spreading of the N word, the type of videos and content. Ladies, don't be offended. WAP, WAP, although I understand that too many Black male artists have produced such overly sexualized content, it doesn't justify that we have sisters, notably will have children while married, will produce such and celebrate it. It doesn't make us look good. It doesn't make us look better. If suddenly Cesar becomes MC Cesar and I appear in a gangster rap video, my argument that so many others have done it does not make it any better for the community. It just makes me contributing further to the stereotype because I got earrings and I wear shades. Nobody would care that I have a medical condition with my eyes. It would just be looked like, oh, I knew this guy was gangster. I knew, kind of like in the Boondocks, this guy had a, excuse my language, N-word moment. That becomes problematic. And we can't afford that because we still have just this week. I think it was 45 people. 45. I don't know if it's Black people necessarily. I don't think it was Black people, but we still have Africans dying in the Mediterranean Sea.
Mm-hmm.
We still have political prisoners in the United States. We still have African countries that are not really free. When you think about my birth country, Cameroon, so as soon as you say that you're from Cameroon, people start talking about football, about soccer. The reality of that, the nature of governance in Cameroon makes many, when it comes to like World Cups, wish for Cameroon to lose because if Cameroon does well, it helps the dictatorial power to remain in place. It makes people forget the realities to stand up and then becomes like, oh, well, just another day. It's a problem that impacts not only us talking about the community, but the mental health of the individuals. Black people
The
are always
trauma.
100% trauma. I always say black people are not free. Black people survive. They don't live. I was giving a training this week to public servants in a small town of Ontario. One of the things that I told them, doesn't matter that I'm a senior leader, doesn't matter that you make six figures, doesn't matter that you're rich and famous, doesn't matter that you are XYZ, that some people would call black privilege. When you're black and driving and there's that police car behind you, you have that moment where it can be a very slippery slope of not even a second. You can end up on the newspaper and be the latest black man or woman in a long list of many innocents who have been victimized, if not killed. This is that black reality. And I'm not being paranoid when even in the US you have black police chiefs who were victims of racism by their own cops, white cops in the city who didn't recognize he was the chief.
Yeah, we can only hope that Black history is going to take a turn for the better.
And not
In
just a
regard,
turn for the better, it has to go with the community activism. It has to
yeah,
go with the community activism. For me, it always bothered me that we can have events where not only most can't afford the ticket, but most don't even have the time to be able to come because they still have to work 2 or 3 jobs. This is our black reality. So yes, I can. I can go here, I can go there, I can afford this and that. Sure, that's great for me. Tuesday, there's an event on Parliament Hill here in Ottawa. My wife will go to represent me. Great, lucky me. But what about the community? That becomes a problem. So I'm not just here pointing fingers, I'm also looking at myself. I am Black, I'm part of this community. It's all of us.
Fully agree. Well, let's get to another conversation topic. And Cesar and I were just chatting, and I know we're only going to scratch the surface on it, but I think it goes hand in hand with Black History Month, the state of the Black family. It's where do you want to start on this one, Cesar?
As we're just scratching the surface, I just go back to that panel, the US panel I was on, and I will just bring a few things from that. First of all, it was great to be there with so many brothers from the United States. And when we talk about the state of the Black family, the first thing I would have to mention is that we have to be careful of the stereotypes that we notably project through statistics, such as the famous 72 or 75% of Black mothers being single mom, etc., etc. Absolutely, there is truth in that, in the sense that there is a high prevalence of single motherhood in the Black family. Absolutely. But you look across across races and communities, there's a high divorce rate. No matter how, it's not as bad for others. However, Black men are more present than the statistics speak of. It may not be that they're present as a husband, but they're more present in the children's lives as much and sometimes more than non-Black men in terms of activities such as changing diapers, etc., for the children. When we talk about the Black family, we also have to address the dangers that come from so many brothers who paint themselves as basically MRAs, men rights activists, but actually propagate misogyny, Black misogyny. Yes, this is something that some brothers will think that they will give me flack for, but absolutely not. There's a lens to look and to address issues objectively, looking at both genders versus switching the victimization narrative from the Black female to now the Black male. And this type of conversation is also to understand that not every sister is a gold digger or wannabe gold digger because of some, I don't know the names of the show, something love and hip hop in Miami or something about Miami. I don't watch these things. I don't know these things. Uh, so not every sister is a potential gold digger, and definitely not every brother is a passport brother, even if he has a passport. This new thing about, but it's not new. People with money have an option to go find a mate uh, elsewhere, but that's not the case for every Black woman. That's not the case for every Black man. We have to be able to come together in addressing our issues, because ultimately, when we fail, it's our children who pay the consequences of it. Um, Working in child welfare, we know very well the critical stage that's called early life, whether some people call it 0 to 6 or 0 to 8. In the Black community, we have to be honest, it's really 0 to 18 or even 0 to 21 in terms of how the environment in which you are born in terms of family, but also where you are born in, the circumstances, who's around you as a community, as a village, will shape you greatly and indicate a higher or lower likeliness of running in trouble with the law, running in socioeconomical trouble, network, uh, and so many issues that will impact your quality of life. This is what's notably called social determinants of life. We have to be able to address these issues and come together as a community, uh, but make better choices. Make better choices. We can't complain on racism and keep propagating stereotypes, whether we're talking about the deadbeat Black father or Black mother or young brothers with their pants down or sisters taking any moment of social media to show the behind. But at the same time, when I'm talking about this, we have to be able to address the fact that coming together as a black family is to have that conversation on mental health, is to have that conversation regarding economics, is to have that conversation about our heritage. Our heritage, which is not Wakanda Forever. That's a great movie, it's fiction, but that's not our heritage. Our heritage, which is concrete, which is factual, which was great, I have to say it, without Jesus and without Allah, because they destroyed our heritage. So we have to be able to have all this conversation and be able to look at one another and respect our differences. And our differences can include a brother or a sister having a non black partner, and yet the family is still black, because that's still how the society will look at them. That's my Pan Africanism. Our differences can be a brother or sister being part of the cause, and yet they're homosexual or lesbian. And for those who disagree, MLK's mentor, Bayard Rustin, was gay. Audre Lorde was lesbian. To what extent can we conjugate black activism without the contributions of our LGBTQIA plus brothers and sisters? And speaking about all of this, the black family, I think, it does exist 100%, but it's too often in singular homes. I have a black family, but the reason we talk about the state of the black family is because as a community, we have too high of a rate. When we say single motherhood, wow, it's also single fatherhood and the consequences it creates upon our children.
Recent studies in the US say that the two lowest net value economic groups in America at the bottom are a single black mother, and next up to that is a single black father.
100%.
And, you know, I'm a believer. I don't put my thoughts into these conversations that much, but I think the state of the black family is really going. One of the key things is there's got to be an economic thing.
Oh, 100%. People are stronger economically when they are together. Especially in this age, you have to think how at the coming of World War II, first of all, society was not uh, created per se for black people, because we were under segregation on this part of the world, colonization in Africa. But at the coming of World War II, there was a massive input of investment from the government in job creation for men, making men more attractive financially and being able to create families. This is when people, especially religious people, when they have this notion of the stay-at-home mother and the working father and that being stability, it's an image from the 50s. It's an exception in history, and it's a white image of the 50s. You know, the white picket fences, the two children, boy and girl, and a dog. It's a white suburban family model. However, it proves that when government wants to invest in something to change the narrative, they can do it. A simple proof: the United States government has already put over $30 billion in weapons for Ukraine. Great. The Ukrainian people are victims of an attack. As Westerners, they deserve their aid from their allies. No problem. But when we look at the realities, and we're not just talking about black people here, when we look at the realities on the ground, too many people live in poverty in the United States. Too many families, black, white, and others, are broken apart, and the financial power, which also translates to attractiveness power of too many men, especially black men, is greatly reduced. And as such, we know this since the 70s, too many sisters rely on the government in terms of fulfilling a role of provider. Those are poisons that destroy communities.
It's really challenging these days because again we're in post pandemic, but things haven't are not. I don't see if they're marginally better for the state of the black family. There's so many forces, but I know we can do it.
We can, but so I'm gonna. I mean, if anyone thought I was being negative, I'm gonna get negative
Uh oh.
even here. But things are gonna get worse. Actually, things are going to get worse. In terms of what I read, in terms of what I understand, things are going to get worse. There's, as winter. So March is coming. As winter is coming, humans in the north tend to have an impression of things being better because nature is coming back to life. But when we're talking about recession, and when we're talking even in terms of geopolitics, the divide that's occurring. So, as I was just talking about Ukraine, the media like to say that the world condemns Russia. No, it's not the world. It's the Western world. The vast majority of nations in the world are not condemning Russia. However, what this is doing is that it's creating further a divide, and the fact that it's creating further a divide will have an impact economically upon nations, notably these nations like where we live here in Canada and the US. This economic impact will be felt notably socially in terms of the power of the dollar, but also further social divides. We're talking here about, we are in 2023, the demographic projections, speaking of further low birth rates of whites, increasing birth rates of blacks, especially in Africa. This type of tensions we can already see here. What's his name? Florida Governor DeSantis being at war with the woke. It's sensationalism, but that's motivating a white base, and yes, some black people, but woke. The five brothers behind me, the heroes of Pan Africanism, they were woke. They were woke. Woke comes from us. It's black culture. It's be awake to the system and how it's oppressing us. DeSantis doesn't know what is woke. Those white Republicans don't know what is woke, but they're going to use this to manipulate the Johnny and the Mary, weaponize them into further antagonism, and they're going to be helped by the intellectual language of, and he is an intellectual, but of people such as the Jordan Peterson in Canada, in English Canada and the US, the Mathieu Bocoté in Quebec, the Éric Zemmour in France. They're going to weaponize this further and further divide the society. So us as a community, we're talking about the state of black family, and we were talking about Black History Month. Us as a community, the way we are weak, we're just going to get weaker. Individuals can get stronger, but it's kind of like the logic of the five fingers versus the fist. No matter how strong any finger is, it is never as strong as all five fingers together. And this is basically why we have the fist up. By the way, Dr. Vibe, you'd like to hear this. My 21-month-old daughter, she knows. I say black power, she's ready. She's 21 months old.
I would expect nothing but in that household, my brother.
Absolutely. She's conscious, So no, we have to understand things will get worse. This has been projected. The America versus China conflict is taking on a whole other level. Are we talking Russia, Ukraine? Well, there's China, Taiwan that's coming. This will impact strongly on economy, but also on culture. Because don't get it wrong, my black people. If you get white supremacy attacking Jewish people through anti-Semitism, Chinese people in terms of anti-Asian hate, black people, you're never far off. You're always there. You're always there. You're always easy to pick. As black people, we can't hide our blackness.
So true. So your lens right now says it's gonna get worse for the black family before it gets better.
It will get worse. It will get worse for everyone. Number one, obviously, it will get better for those at the very top of the pyramid.
The 1%ers.
Not just the 1%er. I will tell you very honestly. It's how can I put it? in terms of the social classes, if you can be middle class, yes, you can fall down, but it's easier to climb up. But the higher you are, the easier it is to get higher. I mean, what's his name? Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg can lose billions of dollars and it makes
Yes.
the news and everything you want to call it. They're still billionaires. Most millionaires don't suddenly find themselves working at McDonald's.
Hmm.
But if you are in your 30s and 40s working at McDonald's, working in the factory, the $15 to $20 an hour, maybe even 25 in your 30s and 40s, it's hard and really harder to climb up and sometimes to stay there. It's easier to fall because of the way the system is set up. So, yes, it will get harder for everyone, but because we are already at the bottom in terms of so many statistics, it will impact us even more.
Cesar, this is you work in this space in regards to Black families. What are you seeing with Black families as we speak today?
I want to say positively more consciousness, and this is great. We have, contrary to what some Black people like to think, I see this, I hear it, I get the messages I hear from other communities, etc. We have more and more Black people waking up to Black history, waking up to rejecting organized religion, and awakening to the Black spirituality. We have more Black people understanding that it's by coming together that we can thrive. So we have, and this is something good that I've noticed, more Black single mothers who are uh, standing up against the bashing of Black men. I really like that. And um, I mean, the brother Kevin Samuel died, and personally, I was not agreeing to his narrative. But also, I see more brothers also speaking in terms of being careful to paint the Black community, the Black gender, the so-called Black gender war that is seen on social media as so divided. So this is what me gives me hope. This is where I stand on in terms of yes, we can. And we have been through worse. We have been through worse, aka slavery, colonization, segregation, and apartheid. But we did not come out of those historical challenges through a moral lens. We came out of there because we fought, because we strategized, because we said, no, this will not be our story, because we dare to say, in honor of our ancestors and for the sake of our children and descendants, we have to succeed. So, as we live in the age of integration, which is also the age of systemic racism, the Black family is the base from which we can only succeed. As I look behind me to Brother Malcolm X, he said something, a quote from him that I absolutely love, that I will spread in Black communities on the four corners of the world. The Black men and the Black women, he said the Black men, I'm adding the Black women. The Black men and the Black women are not respected because Africa is not respected. But Africa is not respected because the Black men and the Black women are not respected. Us as individuals, us as families, us as a communities directly reflect upon the treatment of our communities, of our nations, and by extension, of our heritage, of our victimization. That's what it is.
But you still have hope.
I am not a believer. I am not some type of positivist person. I am 100% a realist. I am a man of action, and I am always a person of hope. We as Black people are survivor. Each and every Black person living a life today on this planet, and even though many of them like to deny that they're Black, I'm including our Dravidian brothers and sisters of India. Each and every Black person from Australia, indigenous Aborigines, to the United States, Each and every black person in the world is a survivor. Slavery, colonization, whether we're talking about 400 years ago or as in the case of our Dravidian brothers, 4,000 years ago. Each and every black person is a survivor. Someone survived for us to be alive today. And as such, we should always have hope. But hope by itself means nothing. Praying to white gods is absolutely useless. And I don't mean to insult anyone's faith, but show me all the white people who are praying to black gods. None. We have to take actions. We have to come together, no matter the differences. I will always work with people of good faith, whatever the skin color, just as I will always work with black people, no matter their claimed religions, as long as they're coming to elevate the group. Because this is what we're talking about.
So, as we close on our conversation today, what's one thing you'd like to say to the Black family today?
Have conversations. Have conversations. Read a book together. Turn off the social media. That basketball game is not that important than that father and son conversation. That Miami show, drama show with uh, black women with the BBL, Brazilian butt lift, and the plastic this, plastic that. Sisters, turn it off. Have a conversation with your daughter. Cook together. Play together. Um, read a story together. Say I love you. We like too much to put on that tough facade and call it tough love. No, 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 no. My daughter hears every day, many times, me and her mother telling her, I love you, je t'aime, natondiwa ti amo. Italian, French, English, and Douala. She hears it every day. Say I love you.
I like that. It's a beautiful way to end off today's conversations. This is our beautiful way. Because, and as I say also too, the greatest area or greatest place of wealth in with blacks is the black family.
100%. 100%.
Cesar, if people want to touch base with you, how can they do that?
Reach me on Facebook, Cesar Remy, Rimy. You will find me there. There was a photo of our Lord and Savior, the Messiah, Mark Zuckerberg. I put a message. I put a message there for him, as notably he's expecting a child. Hopefully, he will read my message and keep me out of Facebook jail for 12 months.
Well said, my brother. Well said. Well, as one of the things that Cesar just said a few moments ago about cooking, well, he's gone to do some cooking for his family.
I got rice and fish to go cook.
There you go. So he's not only just talking the talk, he's walking the walk. So Cesar, as always, thank you so much for all you do. Appreciate you, love you, and keep the faith. Remember to give yourself grace and don't just manage your time, manage your energy.
Thank you, brother.
Enjoy the dinner.
Thank you.
All right. All right, everybody. Beautiful. We started a little bit late today, but as always, Cesar brought the heat as always. So I want to say thank you so much as always. So a few last things before we close down today. You can watch replays of Black Hannah talking at the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Also, you can watch on my website, the drvibeshow.com. Other things, if you want to touch base with me, there you go. You can catch me at my website, the drvibeshow.com. Email dr.vibe at the drvibeshow.com. YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn, The Dr. Vibe Show. Twitter at drvibeshow, and Instagram at the drvibeshow. Other housekeeping things. Subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show if you can. If you haven't already, especially on YouTube. And if you subscribe on YouTube, subscribe and hit the notification bell. We'll update you on upcoming epic conversations. Also, like the Dr. Vibe Show on Facebook or wherever you're watching it, just like. Would you like to promote your business or service on our show? Contact me at dr.vibe at the drvibeshow.com. We are broadcasting this live on the 26th of February. Now, one of the two, I also co-host. Well, I co-host and show called The Morning Vibe with myself and Ryan Knight, who's the executive director of the Afro-Caribbean Business Network. So if you're watching this before 9 a.m. Eastern Time on February 27th, we have Ariel Kayabaga. She is the chair of the Liberal Black Caucus. She's going to be our guest this Monday on The Morning Vibe. That's 9 a.m. Eastern Time, 6 a.m. Pacific. So catch that. So as always, we're going to close out here with this. Live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get small to get stronger. Block assumptions and aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, faith, and respect. Remember to give yourselves grace and don't just manage your time, manage your energy. God bless. Peace well. Keep the faith. Walk good, and we will catch you soon. Yeah. Listen.